Saishwaraya Vidmahe Satya Devaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. Om Saishwaraya Vidmahe Satya Devaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. Om Saishwaraya Vidmahe Satya Devaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. Om Sai Ram, welcome to the Govind Satsangh series. Started during the COVID, and I guess it will continue for a long time because Swami did not leave one Ratna but several Ratnas. And we have one more Ratna today with us, Brother Sai Kantha Rao, and he is going to be introduced by his fellow classmates. So I leave the choice between Brother Hirok and Brother Jagdish to go first and introduce.
Yeah. Kantha Rao, actually, I've known him since my PG days, and once I finished my degree in Vrindavan, and then I came over to Puttaparthi, and I've known him since then. One of the main things which has impressed me about Kantha Rao is the fact that his unabiding, total faith and surrender to Swami. You know, you must have seen amongst the various speakers who have spoken in this forum is that all of them had that tremendous faith in Swami, and then always were guided by Swami, and Swami got them into their fold, and then told them what to do. So this was one thing which was, and then guided them through their whole whole career, and made them what they are today. Kantha Rao was one of those people who was chosen by Swami, and he was in the first batch of Puttaparthi students, and then of course he went on to do his PhD. One of the most abiding memories that I have is the time that we spent during the summer vacations when nobody used to be there in Puttaparthi. Swami used to go off to Kodai, and all the students used to go off to their homes. But it's the PhD students who used to be there, and then the whole hostel was left to us, as well as the mandir was left to us. But then there was a certain amount of discipline which was there even during that time. So those are the abiding memories that I have of Kantha Rao. Kantha Rao presently has started some 3 colleges, and he's head of the he's the promoter of 3 colleges, 2 in Hyderabad and 1 in Palivela. So you can say that he's an education tycoon. Over to you, Jagdish, to say a few words.
Yeah, Sairam, KSVVUKL Kantha Rao, and if you have to expand the abbreviation, it is Kuchimanchi Sai Veera Venkata Uma Koppulingeshwara Lakshmi Kantha Rao. As I always address him, he has been with me throughout our journey of 1971 days of mine in Parthi. And Kantha Rao, as we all know him as Sai Kantha Rao, he has been an embodiment of patience. And what I have learned from him is that he's always helpful to everyone. Come what may, whatever be his trouble, Kantha Rao has always come forth and tried to help anyone who has asked for help. Apart from that, I have a few laurels of Kantha Rao to be shared. Kantha Rao holds the fastest chapati rolling. He used to roll 15 chapatis in a minute, and that was his expertise. He was in charge of the mess. Apart from that, Kantha Rao used to be a big basketballer, and he used to play basketball and had the virtue of the board shots, which cannot be forgotten. Apart from that, Kantha Rao has continued and will continue to do a lot of charitable work as per Swami's wish. Over to Kantha Rao.
Just before Kantha Rao, actually Kantha Rao is very closely associated with all the Sai activities of the trust, in state trust in Andhra Pradesh, and is very closely associated with the activities that happen in Shivam of Hyderabad. Over and above that, I think you are also very closely associated with Vidya Vahini, and then one more thing which I think both of us missed out, Jagadish, is that he was in the batch of people who used to look after our food in the hostel, right? You remember Ashok Anand,
Yes.
Prasad
Yes,
Rao, Kantha Rao, mess. They used to look after all that, and so thank you, Kantha Rao. Go ahead, please.
Brother Kantha Rao, you can start. Yes, brother. Yes, you can speak. Yeah, go ahead. I've unmuted you.
Sai Ram and pranams to beloved Sai Mother. And today, really, after seeing the closest of the close in the best of our days, Jagdish Rajan, Hirak Chankoti, and Hariharan, and Ashok, and others. I feel really happy, absolutely. I forgot what I'm going to speak today now. right now, I have it now. My mind is like that. Because when I see them, I feel what's that actually. I never knew that they're going to introduce me like this. And it's all their affection is seen in their introduction. And thanks to Jagdish Rajan, when he was saying my full name, KSVV Kantha Rao. And he also said my known as a Sai Kantha Rao, because there's a small story which I remember actually, and only Jagdish Rajan got that. And it so happened in 1983, and my first year of PC course, and what had happened is that time the Swami was about to, perform thread ceremony for the students in that year. And that year was the year, and where, and in fact, that time what happened, and I was somehow, I did not give my name to the warden. That time, Mr. Nichanand Menon was the warden. I did not give my name. That's because I have my elder brother. And it so happened, Swami, one of those days, Swami came when the bhajan was going on. He came to me and he asked me, "Did you give your name for thread ceremony?" And I said, "Swami, I did not give." And he said, "Why you didn't give?" I told, "My brother is there." Swami told them, "Okay, you tell your father I'm going to perform thread ceremony to your brother also, and to you also. You give your name," he said, "and your brother's name." And it so happened actually, then after the bhajan was over, immediately I was so happy because Swami gave me namaskar, Swami spoke to me, and Swami gave me permission. And Swami told that he is going to perform thread ceremony to me and also to my brother. And Swami asked me to convey the same to my father. And it went on. And I wrote a letter to my father, and his father was so happy. Immediately he wrote a sort of invitation, postcards, and posted it to all the relatives. When he posted it to all the relatives that Swami is going to perform thread ceremony to both the sons, the relatives were immediately alerted themselves to come to Parthi for seeing the thread ceremony. And meanwhile, what had happened is I went to Nichanand Menon, warden sir, And that time I went and told him. Then he said, no, no, no. This year Swami very specifically told me that only students he is going to perform the thread ceremony, not for any outsider. I cannot take your brother's name. That's what he told me. And it went on. Then that time, of course, myself and one more person was Mr. Jogirazu. He was also there, was my classmate that time. He's a great singer. Swami told him also he is going to perform the ceremony to his elder brother. So both of us are on the same boat. So we both again used to go to the Swami and then give letters. And Swami used to smile and then keep quiet, and the story used to go on like this. And we go to Nityanandan sir and then said, no, 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 today also I asked. Swami said only students. He was not mentioning any of our names, and then it went on that way. Then one fine day I was really literally praying to Swami. You know, that time my state of mind was, what was happening? Swami told me that he's going to do it, and here the people are not giving me permission. And I knelt down and then asked Swami one day, and the Swami Warden sir is not taking my brother's name. Then he said, no, 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 Cheptanle, he said. Nenu Kutumbarao garu cheptanu, he said. That's what he told me, that I am going to tell Kutumbarao. I said, okay. And the next day I went to Kutumbarao and I asked him. So this is what. Then he said, no, 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 Swami told you that he will tell Kutumbarao, but Swami did not tell me anything. If Swami tells me, I will come in search of you and take your name. You don't worry about it. He need not come to me for that, he said. I got a shock of my life. Then, you know, how Swami plays Leela is when it goes on like that. Then I was really literally praying, and then I used to, sit near the cupboard and then, in front of Swami's photograph. Swami, what is this? I just kept quiet. You must have left myself to me. I would not have given my name, and you told that you're going to perform my brother, and then I wrote a letter to my parents, and they have informed all the relatives, and they might come here. Oh, what is that I'm going to tell them? Then, that was a prayer I was praying before, sitting before in front of Swami's photograph and then praying. One day what happened at 1 o'clock, and Swami came, Swami sent Chiranjirav to the institute. Then Chiranjirav came and then he called some 13 names, 1-3. And at that time, Jagdish Rajan was also there in that list. I remember that. That's why I'm telling you. And then he told, what is your good name? I said, my name is Sai Kantha Rao. Then he said, Swami asked you to come at 2:30 to the mandir. So afternoon 2:30, immediately we went there, and Swami called us to upstairs. And then he asked us to take some biscuits and other things. And what was that time plan was, Swami was taking us in a metro, some of us, to Puttaparthi village nearby Puttaparthi. The Swami was trying to open the community hall in that village. And Swami wanted to take few
in the
of
school.
us. School, yeah. Community hall and school. Both the Puttaparthi village, you remember? And we all went, and then, that time, those villagers, they were throwing flowers and Swami, and then so many things went on, and Swami was asking for water, and then I gave him some coconut at that time. It went on. After the whole thing was over, cut short, we came back to Varanda, and after that, bhajans were going on, and then Swami went, and then immediately, he pushed the footrest inside and then took Harti, and while taking Harti, again I gave a letter. My syllabus is not completed because still the thread ceremony is in pending. Then I gave a letter to Swami saying that Swami, then he took the letter and went inside the interview room. And usually what used to happen, we used to wait till Swami goes to upstairs sometime. So we were waiting, and suddenly Swami came out of the interview room again after the Harti was over, after the dinner is over. He came and asked, who has given me letter? He was asking, and the boys, they said, only I was the one person who gave that letter. Then immediately they pointed it to me. Then Swami asked me, what is your name? Then I said, Swami Kantha Rao. And Swami said, no, Sai Kantha Rao kada, he told me. Because I wrote in that letter Sai Kantha Rao, he mentioned. From that time onwards, it is only the Jagdish Rajan who popularized my name as Sai Kantha Rao in the hostel. That's how I remember that incident. I just wanted to, because before forgetting it, I wanted to say that's how I Right now, I write it as a Sai Kantha only from then onwards. Even my signature is Sai Kantha only. Though I have a long name of Sai Veera Venkata Uma Lakshmi Kantha Rao, I cut short all those things and write Sai Kantha Rao. That is how my, naming ceremony went on that way. Afterwards, of course, Swami gave permission, and then the story went on very smoothly, and Swami performed that ceremony to both my brother and me, and my parents are happy. All of them are so happy. And that was the story of my name, because Jagdish introduced me with the full name and also told me Sai Kantha Rao. I thought I should immediately tell of this. I might, it might go off from my mind because I did not think of telling this. It has come that way. That's how we get connected when we meet each other. Alumni, when we meet each other, you trigger something, and then you remember something of, what was happening between us and Swami. That's how it happens actually. It was so nice, but I
absolutely.
Organizers who has created this platform to give me this chance to remember Swami and then contemplate on Swami, and then ask me to this. I personally feel this is absolutely Swami's will. It is, without Swami's will, without Swami's sankalpa, nothing is going to happen. I really believe it in 100%. Every small thing that happens, it happens only by Swami's will and will alone. Because even today, this meeting, whatever the meeting that is happening, it's only his will that we could meet like this and then talk about Swami and remember Swami. This is, once I tell you, Swami himself has said it. I remember one of my classmates, I think these people must be knowing, Sarvathamudu. He gives a beautiful experience actually. I remember that. And his father went in 1950s to just early 50s or nearing 50s. When he came to Vrindavan first time, and Swami was there in White Vrindavan, and then he was sitting for darshan. Swami came forward and then looked at him, and he was quiet by himself. And later he was also Sanatan Sathya editor. He worked as, and now his son is there, Mr. Venkateswari. Now he is looking after the Sanatan Sathya. And at that time Swami told his father, Chustano, and went off after that. Chustano means he thought Swami will come and look at him and take him and talk to him or call him inside. That was the implied message he had got it. Then he was waiting for about an hour or so. Swami went inside and he was not coming out, and this man was still waiting. Later he came to know after some time that Swami left for Parthi. This man got so disappointed because for the first time he came. How could Swami say this? I'll Chustano, and he said he'll see me, and then how could he go off like this? And he thought somebody, the devotees, they told him, why don't you go to Parthi and see him there? And then immediately he thought, okay, having come all the way so far, I can as well go to Parthi. So he traveled to Parthi. He sat in the darshan line, and when Swami came, he asked Swami, Miru Chustano annaru, kani Doddidarni vellipoyaru. Doddidari means how could you go off from the backyard like that? Then Swami told him Swami has got his own way of saying it. So Doddidarni endiki vellanante Doddadari chupiddamani. So I went out from the backyard so that I can show you the royal way to Parthi, so that you can come number of times to Parthi. That is what Swami said. Then when Swami said like that, then afterwards Swami called him for an interview. When Swami called him for an interview, then Swami spoke to him, and Swami created a visiting card. That visiting card actually I posted it to Mr. Venkat. If you can, maybe you can show it to him. One visiting card of Swami where Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba, Prasanthi Nilayam, Puttaparthi, Penukonda Taluka, Anantapur district. And yes. And this is the visiting card Swami created and gave him, saying that anytime you can come to me. And that man, he asked Swami, can I have one more visiting card? You know what Swami said? Enduku pracharam chestava? Do you want to give advertisement to me? Then Swami said, you don't need to. Nuvu emi advertisement naaku ivvakkalledu. Eppudu ela evariki ekkada prakatitam avvalo alaga nene prakatitam avutanu. It is only when and where and how I have to be known to the people, I will be known that way only. If through somebody like Venkat, if I am known, Swami is known to me, it is Swami's will that through him somebody is knowing Swami to him. This is what Swami's will is. And without his will, nothing is going to, that's what Swami said, and it is been happening like this. And one more thing I firmly believe in is that once a Swami chooses you, and once you are chosen by Swami as the devotee or anybody as his own, he is not going to leave you at any cost. Wherever you are, however you are, and you may even, Swami said in one of the Satsai speaks, I read it, and Swami said, even if you criticize me, even if you speak ill of me, even if you hate me, even if you go very far from crossing rivers and oceans, staying at the other shore of the river, I am not going to leave you. This is what Swami said. He is not going to leave us at all. He has always been protecting us. And we'll suddenly again come back to his fold. And he's, in the sense, we are not going to go any far. We might, because of our temptations, our illusions, or so many things, but he is not going to leave us. Once he has chosen, he has chosen. That's all it is. And that's how we are all in his fold. And having my story of journey with Swami, I think almost 60 years of my life, all my activities are centered around Swami only. And it is the Swami's, the journey itself is, for us, the path is Swami and the destination is Swami and the end is Swami. That's how it is, right from the beginning, for that matter. Right from the beginning, because even before I was born, and my parents came to know of Swami, and that was a long story how they came to know of Swami. And because one of my, my paternal uncle, by Durga Purushottangar, I should say, he is the village head and he was a freedom fighter. And through him, all of us have come into that fold. Since then, he was the instrument for us to be in Swami's fold. And from then onwards, Swami has been, holding us, holding our hands and protecting us and guiding us throughout. And I still remember in 1961 when we came to Parthi, and we all came in, we used to come from the village, Palivela, as he mentioned it. Mr. Iraq has mentioned, I started a college there because it was my birthplace. And from that place, actually, to come to Parthi, it used to take for about 3 days journey. 3 days, it's almost, you have to change 3 trains. And it was, of course, everybody's, that time, that travel was to be like that. And when we came, Swami was also very concerned when the devotees come from so far. That time, the facilities were so scarce. And Swami was really thinking of us. And then, told the people who are looking after Parthi, they said, you give them the old mandir as accommodation for all of us. That's what. And old mandir was given to us to stay that time. And Swami, at that time, all of us, for about 60 to 70 members, we all were there. And Swami took us to Chitravati. We had some group photo there with Swami. Unfortunately, I don't have it to show it now. But it was there for some time. I lost that photograph also. I couldn't trace it. And that was the photograph. And that's how, from that time onwards, our life has been, Palavihar and Balvikas and so many things. The day started, even while we were in Palavihar, our day used to start, that time the rules were like this. You start the day with writing, immediately take a bath and write Om Sri Sai Ram for about 10 times. Every day put the date and write 10 times, and then you start doing your work. That's how the day starts. End the day with again Om Sri Sai Ram only, write the book and show it to the Balvikas teacher on every Sunday that we have written every day. This is how it used to be. And later, I tell you, when Swami, how he has been, infusing, rather injecting the faith and strengthening our faith as and when really required. And secondly, he used to show his, what I call it as, I don't call it as a miracles or anything, but his presence, his omnipresence, he used to suddenly reveal to so many devotees. But it so happened in our case also. It is very unbelievable, but it had happened to us, and we were all the eyewitness for that. In that time, what used to happen is, we used to have, at home, some bhajans, family bhajans used to be there. and all the family members, we sit at Pradosha, that is the evening time of this kind, and all the family members, they sit and do some bhajans and keep one Swami's chair and then, allot it to him, then do bhajan, give harti. That is a regular bhajan we used to have. And my sisters were there, and I was very small, maybe 6 years old, so it was in 1966 or 67. And lo and behold, when we were singing, Swami had just manifested himself on the chair that we had allocated in the physical form, flesh and blood. He came and sat on the chair. When he came and sat on the chair, all my sister, for about 8 members, and were doing bhajans. Everybody saw his Swami, and then they couldn't believe their eyes, because when they saw Swami like this from nowhere, he has, because he's everywhere, that's how he came from nowhere. That's how the concept is. Swami, he is everywhere, and anytime he can come. We had heard of Bhakta Prahlada's story and then all that, but we are seeing it with our own eyes. And when Swami came and sat, one of them, they started shouting for my father, calling out my father, Daddy come, and Swami had come. And when my father was at the backyard, and he was, by the time he came, to our dismay, and Swami's physical presence was not there. But Swami has really left his footprints with Vibhuti on the footrest which we had kept. And every one of us, that aroma was different, that Vibhuti, it started, profusely coming out, and people had for about 1 month darshan. And later, one of the persons from my village, he went to Parthi, and then Swami gave him interview and acknowledged that, yes, I had come to their house in Chinnisai Rupam. Chinnisai, in the form of Chinnisai, I had come. Swami, that's how Swami used to acknowledge. And Swami acknowledged that. And later, what my father did, and he gave this cloth for about after 1 month or 1.5 months, this cloth to a dhobi. And that dhobi, actually, he nicely boiled it in the pot and washed it and ironed it and got it back. And lo and behold, the footprints were intact. They were not washed out by any of this exercise. This is what Swami is. He is not going to leave us anymore. And he has been holding us. And this is what Swami from everywhere, and he is everywhere, he is around us. And I still remember one more experience of his omnipresence. And later, in recent past, in the sense, in 2003 or 4, and it so happened, actually, I should say, because it was a very unbelievable experiences which I don't want to miss it, though I'm repeating it because I'm on a different platform when I speak. But doesn't matter, I thought, because this is what actually, makes me again think that Swami is around me. I can always see he's with me, he's hearing me, something like that. And we went to, we were there in Singapore, because that time my wife, actually, Dr. K. Padma, she was a doctorate from Central University in biochemistry. Later, she did her postdoctoral fellowship from CCMB. And then she also went to Japan for PDF. Then from there, she came to NUS, National University of Singapore. She was there for about 4 years in US. And that time, I used to visit to Singapore now and then and stay there for about 2 months, and then again come back to Hyderabad and look after my educational institutions here. That's how my days were that time. When those days when I was in Singapore, what I used to do is, first thing is, I used to first look for the Sai Center. And because wherever I go, I always look for the Sai Center, because that is the only context which makes us really feel homely. And they are the only people who can make us feel that, yes, they are our people. And that's how my attitude was, even is right now. I always look for that. Satsangh is always a great boon for all of us, for that matter. And that time, when I was speaking to small groups, and one of the brothers, I remember it was, I don't remember who has organized the trip, but they said there is a place called Penang in Malaysia, And they said we can go there because so many happenings are happening. Swami is really showing a lot of miracles and other things. And I said, okay, to visit a place of Swami center is always a welcome, but not for this again, attracted by the miracles and all, but certainly because Swami said the miracles are like a visiting cards. What you need to do is look for me always. It's natural for Swami, doing things is so natural because he's the God. He's the God in the sense it's so natural. The mango is sweet, and for Swami doing all this is so natural, as sweet as mango is, simple as such, and it cannot be nothing better than that, I should say. So natural for Swami, but we went to Penang. That time the center was called as Swami's home, and we were there. And I remember some of the names. Mr. Ravi from Mauritius. Actually, he was a student in NUS, and also he was working part time that time. And Mr. Christopher was there, and Brother Rai, he and his two daughters and one son, and one more Chinese couple by name Casey Wang and his wife, and one more person, lady, was Sangeeta, a small girl, and she was from Nepal. We all went as a team, and when we went, actually, we were there, and when we reached Penang and we went to that Swami's home, it's really a Swami's home because they could accommodate us, all of us, in different rooms. And then we had a beautiful darshan of Swami, where Vibhuti was coming out and the honey was coming out, and then kumkum was coming out. People picked up and then filled the honey in small bottles, and they saw again it is coming out. All that, it was so nice to so pleasant and so serene it is to be in that atmosphere, and where we could feel Swami in that center. And after some time, after lunch, we were in our rooms talking about Swami and discussing about Swami, and then not just talking about Swami, sharing some of our experiences. And 3-4 of them, they said they want to go and then go to the altar and then meditate. When they went to the altar, it was like a sliding door. When they sat, and then suddenly they found sort of pearls were falling from the photographs there. Then they shouted, "See, pearls are falling," they said. And immediately everybody got up and ran to that place. When they ran to the place and they picked up some of the pearls. And I was a bit late in moving. When I was last, I was moved actually. And when I moved into the hall, before entering the altar room, in the hall itself, lo and behold, I tell you, this is unbelievable for me, because the pearls have fallen from all over the place, from the ceiling, from the tube lights, from the walls, from everywhere it is falling. In fact, I picked up some of them, and I kept one photograph. Brother Venkat can show that, maybe Swami photograph, and then here in small covers of pearls are kept. Not this. Yeah, this is one. And that is goddess of Lakshmi, which is they are supposed to be, and that time New Year was coming for Chinese, and I told Kishi Wang, they used to keep a letter, and when we were all doing bhajans, suddenly it just came from not from the ceiling, not from the base, but it has come from the middle like this. And then while all of us were seeing that the goddess Chinese, that is the Lakshmi Devi, it just landed on the letter, and we were with our naked eyes, we were seeing it. And imagine, what had happened is, this is how Swami, strengthens our faith and sees to it that he is always around us. We cannot do any other mistake because he is around us. He is always with us, protecting us, showing us omnipresence, and it went on that way. And I remember in this context, I tell you when I say it is Swami himself has said it during my research time. Actually, I was sitting in the veranda. When I was sitting in the veranda, this would be very apt to say, because I just remembered I am saying Swami is everywhere, Sarvavyapi. And when I say this, I used to read some of these Vahinis and Dharma Vahini and other Vahinis. And I was telling one of the persons there sitting in the Upanishad Vahini, which is to be a little tougher. Then That's how I felt it. And suddenly Swami came and, from the interior room. I was sitting in the veranda, middle of the veranda, and Swami came. He came straight to me and looked at me and asked me, what is Upanishad? When he asked me, he bent his head down like this. When I just kneeled down and looked up, I could only see Swami's face, and then, a hollow hair and a brilliant face I can see. And when I looked at it, I could only see Swami's face. I cannot even see the ceiling of the veranda. That is how it was. That was the scene. I can even now I can visualize the face, beautiful face of that Swami. Then I just kept quiet. Swami said, a beautiful revelation. I should say this. Then Upanishad ante said, Anantamaina Divyatwani అతి సమీపంలో ఉండేటట్లుగా నిరూపించేది ఉపనిషత్. To translate this, it is to realize or experience the infinite divinity, which is all pervading, which is infinite divinity in the closest proximity of one's own self. This is what Swami is showing us. And this is what his Swami has been showing us. And Swami is in the closest proximity, is all pervasive. Though he is all pervasive, he makes us realize that in small instance which had occurred even while we were there in hostel also. And as my brothers were mentioning it, I just recall because we used to work in the kitchen. Yes, we used to work in the kitchen, and we used to roll chapatis, and we used to cut vegetables. And in fact, some of us, it was a great chance, because one more thing is, when Swami, when we started the new hostel, from old hostel to the new hostel, when we went, and that time Swami used to come every day, and he used to come in the morning and also evening. And sometimes both the times he used to come, and he used to taste the food what was cooked for boys. And we all had in turns great chance of tasting, showing the taste to Swami with the spoons we used to take, and Swami used to taste it, and then again give suggestions. The masala in this masala is more, ask them to reduce the garlic, something like that. He used to suggest. And that's how Swami's love for boys is. He himself used to taste it, how the food is served to the students, what type of a food is served to the best students. And imagine, of course, there were so many instances where I just remember, because in the hostel, when Swami comes to the kitchen, so many things used to happen. And we used to, the moment Swami comes, sometimes, he comes very surprisingly, when nobody was there. And once it so happened, myself and Seshgiri and few of us were there, the Swami's car stopped, and it was all dirty, because just then only the cooking part of it is over. We were not knowing what to do. Immediately we just cleaned it. We took 2, 3, 4 broomsticks, 4 of us, and then cleaned it, and then took the the dust. We didn't know what to do with the dust, because Swami did not give us time to even lift the dust and throw it out. And imagine what we did. The sitting mat was there. We just pushed it to the wall and then put the sitting mat on top of it, so that it won't be visible. And of course, it's not that Swami doesn't know about it, but we want it to be as clean as possible, as pleasant as possible when Swami walks. That is the only intention we had. Not to hide from Swami. Absolutely no. That is not the point. And one of those, that's how we used to, in our young age, the mind was like that. We used to behave that way also. And suddenly one day we used to send a carrier to Swami. And some food was prepared for Swami specially also. And we were making some puris. I know when we make puris for Swami, it should be perfectly round. No, not even a small space should go out of the round. That's how it used to be. And of course, some people were very experts, especially Mr. Piyush, who is there. He is an expert in making a round puri. I recall it, because he is an expert in that. And later, of course, we also learned it. It was a different issue. And Swami suddenly came and then said, "Em chestunaru?" Then Swami said, "Naaku kuda vanta vachu." Then he said, "I also know cooking." Then he immediately took the chapati stick and then started rolling puris. When he started rolling puris, and Swami also rolled it so round, like a moon. And then what he did, he took a knife and then cut it in the middle. When he cut it in the middle, and he made, he just folded like this, like this, like this. And at the end, he just kept one hole, small hole was there. And he blew it. And that's the, whatever the puri sort of it, kachikaya, we call it as in Telugu. And that it's bulged like this. And Swami concealed the hole. And he fried it in the deep fry, he made it. He made for about 8, 9 of that kind. And it was so beautiful. And then Swami asked us to eat then and there. And we all had the chance of eating it. But that was not the story. Actually, Swami brought that time Gopal Rao, the ex-chairman of Andhra Bank. He was there accompanied by Swami that time. When he came, Swami asked him to also eat. And when he ate, Swami asked him, "Etla undi?" Swami said, "Bhagawan Swami." Swami, when Swami makes, how it will be. So, chala Bhagawan Swami. Kani dantlo Purnam untund Swami. Purnam means the sweet, usually they keep it, the Telugu people. And his Swami immediately said, "You Brahman betuntar," he said. He just cut off saying that only your Brahmins will eat that way. Then everybody laughed, and then Swami said, that's what actually Swami is, so jovial, so casual, but he reveals his, omniscience. Then Swami said, "You eat that." One more is what of the 8 or 9 he made. He showed that and he eat that. When he opened it, there was a Purnam in that. By mere sankalpa. This is not for the. In fact, I heard Professor Anil Kumar Garu was saying it in Kodai. Swami, when they served puris, and Swami said, "You break the puris and eat." When he broke the puris, suddenly he found a gold ring. Gold ring in the puri. Shocked, and then he was slowly started. Swami, emo Swami, ye puri lo we don't know, Swami, what is there in which puri. Everyone started laughing at. By mere sankalpa, anything can happen. That's what Swami is. Swami is just my mere sankalpa. In fact, I don't know when some of I just read it maybe some 4 or 5 days back. Somebody, rather my wife was reading Tapovanam. While she was reading, I just overheard saying, Swami, one of the trips in Andhra Pradesh, Swami had a habit of eating pans that time. The pan was a big story, I should say, because I don't know. Swami used to eat pans, and that was a great chance for us, take betel leaves and then put it in a silver box, all the ingredients that are required. And Swami used to take pan and then make it, and he used to just have it. And that it was a wonderful sight to see, and a great joy for us when we offer it to Swami also. It so happened one of the devotees' house in Andhra, Swami was, taking out the betel leaves and then taking out the stalk in between, and he was arranging it in a shape of the parrot. And the devotee asked him, "Swami, what does God do? What God does? Rather, what God keeps doing it?" And Swami said, "Swami, God keeps creation. He keeps creating," he said. You know what he did? He took out the stalk which is arranged in the parrot form. He took it into the hand and he just blew it. Imagine this. The parrot has taken a life and flapped the wings and flew in front of all the devotees. From inanimate object to animate object. He can, anything by mere sankalpa, he can do it. This is, and all our, it's all illusion what Swami cannot do, in the sense, anything he asks, he is there to do it. Only thing, our faith should be unwavering. That's what I personally feel it. Because if I keep hearing it, because I tell you, whenever why I'm able to narrate this, because when we meet anybody, we only ask about Swami. When somebody meets also, having known us in the Swami's world, they'll only talk about Swami. They'll only talk about Parthi. They'll only, this is what this is. And that's how Swami has encompassed us, completely enveloped us with his thought. And we should be very, very, very grateful, in the sense that's how Swami is. In fact, when we joined in Parthi in 79, 1980 was the 55th birthday. Those days, when 55th birthday and all, we used to work in the South Indian canteen. When we used to work in South Indian canteen, we were not knowing the time also. Because that time the World Conference was there, and morning till evening, sometimes some days actually we slept in the canteen itself, in the kitchen. That's how we used to lose our identity and then be a part of service. And of course, Ashok was there, Kanan was there, and all of us for that matter, some of us, and even Jeku and Sadrao, so many of us, we used to work. And that time there were two beautiful, the two candidates who were there, the devotees who were managing the kitchen, South Indian canteen rather. One by name Dasavataram Garu. He was a great soul. And also, when we know those people so simple, they left everything, they sacrificed their life for Swami, and they dedicated their life for Swami. And whenever we get a free time, we used to talk to them and then ask them, sir, why don't you tell your experiences? Those people, they have gone with Swami to Sri Sailam and then Badri, all those people, the first batch in 1960s, early 60s, they went with Swami and they had innumerable experiences. And in fact, once when we insisted, I remember only what the Sathya Garu told me, that once the one instant I can never forget what Swami. He used to look after books and publications in early 60s, I believe. And Professor Kasturi also out there. And once it so happened is Professor Kasturi and also the Dasavataram Garu and Swami, all three of them went to Bangalore. When they went to Bangalore, they used to, take purchases from Bangalore for Sanatan Sardi and books and publication, all the stationery they used to buy. And Swami was sitting in the car, these people got down and then got this purchases. And some bill, it went down to some 10,000 rupees or so. They said, when we come to Parthi, we'll give. They came and they told Swami, when he comes to Parthi, we can give there. And then they brought that. Afterwards, when they brought the stationery to Parthi, Swami gave them immediately. Swami doesn't keep anything in pending. That's what Swami's mission is always like that. He never keeps anything in pending. Everything should go. Once he gets the thought that should be complete, that's how Swami used to announce. By next birthday, I'm going to open super specialty means that's a 1 year time he'll open it. Next birthday, I'm going to give water project. Yes, that's the time target is always like that. And he never keeps anything in pending. We all know that. We have seen that throughout our life actually. And even for the dramas we enacted, how Swami used to work, it is not just we are, making a number of time rehearsals. The same number of times Swami used to come and sit for the rehearsals also. And that's how Swami's work is to be. That's how the perfection Swami, make us reach the perfection of that kind. And whatever, immediately he gave back the money, 10,000 rupees to Kasturi Garu and told him, you give it up to that bookshop wala. And he thought, okay, when he comes to Parthi, he can give. That's how he felt it. And meanwhile, the days passed, that man did not come for a long time. And this money was spent off for different purposes. And it was just kept out of his mind to inform Swami that he spent all that money. And later, the bookshop came, the shopkeeper, he sat on the lines, darshan lines. Swami went around, spoke to him, and asked him, Duddu Muttinda. Said, means, did you get money? Swami, Swami, I just came. Then Swami smiled at him and then went off for interviews. Later he called, after the interviews, he called Professor Kasturi and then asked him, did he give him then money? Said, so then immediately he started, swallowing saliva. Then immediately he forgot that Swami, then he mingled, he minced words and then said slowly, Swami, I spent this money for this. All that he started explaining. Then Swami got so wild. What do you think of yourself? You should have told me, if you really require money, why did you spend off like that? I could have given you if you don't have it. But what do that man thinks? Sai Baba, he takes off the material, he doesn't give money in time. That's how they think. I don't want that bad name to come. And Swami has got his own ways of teaching lessons to the people on the administrative side or anything for that matter. He gave him what are the dose that is required for Professor Kasturi that time. And Professor Kasturi, then Swami said, you call that Dasavataram. Dasavataram was also in charge for books and publications. This Professor Kasturi went and then told Dasavataranga, Swami is calling you. Then he said, anything happens, sir, you go, you can get, you see what is going to happen there. That's what he told. Professor Gastri has got that, subtle humor even in that serious mode. Then when Dasavataranga went there and Swami also gave him left and right, how can you do that, all that, and both of them were in tears actually. When Swami gives his peace of mind, when they were literally in tears, and Swami immediately, with all his compassion and love, he melted. Swami melted, and Swami said, okay, next time you don't do it, he said, and then he kept his hand like this, and then took out 10,000 rupees like this. Those people were shocked. What is this? Swami said, Chastalam, Lakshmi Devi stays here. He said, yeah, who stays? Lakshmi Devi stays here. You go and give it to him, he said. And these people, not knowing whether to give this money which has come directly from Lakshmi Devi, if they are not going to give, then they also saw the Rudra of Swami, which they don't want to again face it anymore, and told him, you're very lucky, you just keep this and you can prosper like anything. And that is how those people, they enjoyed the proximity that time. They also enjoyed the omnipresence. They also enjoyed the omniscience of Swami. And because Swami can, Srishti Sthiti Laya Karaka, he can bring back lives, anything he can do. All that, because Swami is such, he is of that kind. And at the same time, but my joining in Parthi, by then we also know that he is a Sarvayapaka, because Swami has revealed n number of times that his omnipresence, and also we could realize a little later, maybe then we could not have realized it, but later, now of course, now slowly we are trying to realize where Swami is leading us to. He was leading us always that your focus should always be on me, who's always around you, in you, with you, within you. And Swami has laid down a path that is to walk for all of us internally. That internal path where Swami, that is what is that. And ultimately, when this is what actually the words of wisdom, what Swami has given, are words of love, the love which we have experienced. And when I say that the love which we had experienced, I don't know, some of our brothers, they were really, most of them, we have our own, gradation of enjoying the proximity of Swami, and also the love that Swami has showered on all of us. And we were, in fact, I should tell you, because Swami is a perfect mind reader. He wanted our minds to be purified. The purification of our mind is real bhakti for Swami. And he doesn't want any, tarnished mind with which we should worship Swami. And in fact, I should say, when we joined with some desires, no doubt about it. But ultimately, as and when we grow, he only makes us, desire the desireless mind. This is what actually we should reach to. And at one stage, whatever Swami does, it's for our own good. You don't need to ask anything. He'll give you just like that. Everything he gives on his own. We just need to be there with Swami and praying to Swami and realizing Swami. And this is what I feel. And his love for any of us, for that matter, in fact, and we had the great chance of, going to Kodaikanal. I should say some of those things which when we went to Kodaikanal, that experience is absolutely different. In 85 for Sai Shruti building opening, Swami took us to Kodaikanal, and he took us, actually we traveled by bus. When we traveled by bus, Swami went by car in front of us. Of course, everybody, so many of us, especially some of the students who are accompanied Swami into different tours, they would have really.
Please speak loud.
They would have really.
Please speak loud.
Okay. They would have enjoyed the love of Swami that Swami has showered. Is it clear? And
yes.
he would have enjoyed the love of Swami. And when we are traveling, actually, Swami keeps a lot of food items in the bus, and we all enjoyed it. And it so happened actually when by traveling, the windshield of the bus was broken in the middle, especially on the Ghat road. And there was one driver, Swami's driver, by name Chari. He was a short guy, and he used to drive Swami's car also. And that Chari was driving it, and he really suffered because all the dust and the air also is coming onto his eyes. And somehow we could reach till Coimbatore, and Coimbatore, some of the devotees, they got it repaired. And when we got it repaired again, we reached Kodaikanal in the sometime around midnight, I should say, around 12:30, around that time. No, I tell you, Swami was literally waiting for us. He was literally waiting for us. He did not sleep. He came out of the window and asked us, "Enduku late ayindi? Why are you late?" Then when he asked, he told them, "Swami, this is what happened." And the Swami, I said, no, okay, you go have your dinner. And then, 12:30, between 9, 12, 12:30, Swami was awake and, waiting for the boys. And why they have delayed? This is the thousand mothers' love, first thing is. And we had our dinner. And then, of course, that night, what happened is, we stayed in a hotel called Joy Hotel. That was in Kodai. And next day, we had that opening of Sai Sruti building, inauguration. And we went to, the Sai Sruti building in the morning. And Swami has inaugurated it and took us inside. And of course, there was a naming ceremony of the Sai Sruti building. Swami asked, "Why M per petali?" Somebody said Smruti, and somebody said something. Said, "No, Shruti is better because whatever the revelations, Aptavakyas, whatever comes out of here is Aptavakyas, in the sense the Vedas, Shruti." Then Sai Shruti, they named it, and afterwards we had our lunch, and we went upstairs, and then there was, of course, the proximity that Swami had given us. We were really, really blessed because just opposite to Swami's room, there's one more room here, and and that room, the sleeping bags were piled up, and Swami showed this is the room, and just opposite only Swami is staying. And there, what happens is, here the question is, staying near to Swami is so enjoyable, so blissful, but at the same time it is so tough. When I say why it is so tough, because we are 18 of us, the pin drop silence we need to maintain in that small room so that it should not disturb even the steps that we make. The sound should not come. That is how. And imagine that small room. What I tell you why Swami says, in the depths of silence, the God's voice can be heard. When Swami says that, we really experienced that in that place. In that place, we really experienced that. In fact, I remember, I just getting deviated. Don't mistake me, because when I reached in Vrindavan, some of the students used to tell me, "See, can you hear Swami's steps?" Because Swami used to have a walk in the bungalow, old bungalow. Just can you hear that? And we used to be so silent to hear the Swami's, the steps sound when Swami was just walking. Swami doing. And slowly, first thing is, you need to be silent. When you are silent, only you can hear the voice of the footsteps of God. This is what I really experienced there. Swami also said, in fact, one of the students, and Professor Ram Brahmangaru, Ram Brahmangaru used to be there in old bungalow in Vrindavan. And the first time, actually, when I went, I remember Vrindavan, when I went in 80, that time Swami was taking all our faculty, that time our faculty members, and there were also students. And Chanand Menon was there, and then Kamal Sahni was there, and Achalani was there, and then so many other people of that batch. Swami was taking them to Kashmir. And that time my state of mind was, I didn't want to go to home in the summer vacation. This has always been my bent of mind was that. I didn't want to leave. Either I stay back in Parthi or with Swami somewhere. and Swami should give permission. And Swami left Parthi, and our exams got over, and Swami went off to Vrindavan. I didn't know what to do, and then I went to Vrindavan that time, and I didn't know where to stay because there we were not allowed to stay in the hostel. The vacation started, and thanks to Hariharan, he took me to his house. That time they used to stay in Malleswaram. I used to come by local train to Vrindavan. I don't know whether Hariharan still remember that, but I acknowledge here because I'm so thankful that time. And I stayed in the house for 2-3 days. And that time, what used to happen is, in the old bungalow, we just go and then do some Pada Seva during bhajans. We just go straight to Swami's feet. And one of those 3 days, one day somebody gave me a great chance of garlanding Swami. One day somebody gave me giving Harati. And next day Swami was going to leave, and then I was telling those people, some of the senior students there, they said, okay, come to the safe room. And then I went to safe room and gave letter to Swami. And then Swami said, no, some vacation, he said. And then I took Namaskar that time and then came back. And what I'm trying to say in that, that's how actually the old bungalows, the compactness and the freeness, and then how closely we can really move with Swami. And at that time, Ram Brahmanga was in charge actually, even the previous days. And he was sleeping downstairs, and Swami used to sleep upstairs. And one of those, then Ram Brahmanga used to go off at 4:30 to, freshen himself. He used to go and take bath and come back. That time, nobody used to be there in the bungalow. So he told Swami, then Swami said, ask some of the students to sleep here. Then some of the students used to sleep there. And but the problem is they used to get up at 4:30 and roll their beds and go off to hostel. And his purpose is not served. And then he asked, Ram Brahma asked one of the students, by name Mr. Sagar, he narrated this experience. And he asked him to stay back. Then when he stayed back, suddenly he heard the footsteps. Then he went upstairs and then saw he could not see anything. Then he came down. He heard 2-3 times like that. Then one day he thought he should reveal it to Ram Brahmangaru. He went and told Ram Brahmangaru. Then Ram Brahmangaru said, shh, just wait. You can hear Swami's footsteps. Swami is walking, he said. Swami is walking, just hear the footsteps, he said. He heard the footsteps again. The next day Swami came to safe room, and then Swami very casually in his conversation, he was saying it, say you all can go for walking outside, but whereas I have to walk inside only. That's what he was telling. Then Ram Brahmangaru said, Swami, we heard your adugul chappadu vinnam, Swami. We heard your footsteps noise. Then Swami said, hey, ekkada vinnaru? No, you can't hear, he said. Then Swami, atanu kuda Sagar kuda vinnadu, adagandi. Vinnava? Swami said, did you hear? Swami, when everything is so silent, we could hear. Yes, in the depths of silence, we can hear my footsteps. And this is what we experienced at Kodaikanal also. That's what I was trying to stress upon, because that we need to silently hear the voice that is around us. Either way, whether it is in the form of Omkar or in the form of songs of Mr. Hariharan or anyone for that matter, Nada Brahman, or footsteps of Swami, you should hear around only in depths of silence. Silence in the sense we need to silence our senses too. We need to silence our senses. That is how that only then we can have the silence to see the Sai form. Otherwise, that's how silence goes, the importance of the silence. Then afterwards in the Kodaikanal, coming back to that again, sorry. One day what had happened is, Swami used to come down, and then, in that 18 of us in that small room, and only one bathroom, imagine. And what we used to, nobody should knock the door, but everybody should finish their bath and everything, and then come out, stand there before Swami finishes. This was, I should say, a bit challenge, in the sense, but it was so nice. We never felt it all. We never felt even an inch of difficulty in that. It was a joy and bliss staying with Swami. Not doubt at all. And Swami used to come out and then go downstairs and say, Pillalu, that's all. The moment he calls Pillalu, all of us to run down, and then, breakfast is ready. We had our breakfast. And then Swami used to tell you, go for walking. And Swami used to send us for walking actually. And then later Swami used to come, and one of those days one thing is Swami's love. The love that Swami showered on everybody for that matter. It is not just merely on us. Swami himself is a form of love. That Swami said, I am the love. My form is love. Right? Love is my form. Truth is my place. That's how that Swami is. Who is Satsangh? When you say, you can always say love is his form. That's what it is. And that's what Swami said, when you say you are also God, your form should be also filled with love. That is the meaning Swami wanted us to, inculcate that love within us. And in fact, I remember one of the statements when we are doing in Padaseva, Swami's feet was so soft, Swami's feet, like it is like a beetle leaves only, small, and when you touch it like a cotton, so smooth it was when we were doing it. And somebody said, Swami, it's all a soft one night. He said, you keep these feet in your heart so that your heart gets softened with love. You keep that feet in your heart, and your heart also will get softened like my feet. That is how it is, Swami's feet is. And we should keep that. That is a form we should develop. That is then only then when Swami says, you are my form. That's why Swami always says Brahma Swarupa Lara. He addresses us as Brahma Swarupa only. He doesn't address us anything. Swami, he always sees as his reflection. That's how he loves. He loves us because he sees himself in us. In spite of so many, the defects or the faults that we had in our mind, Swami overlooks all of them. And then he only forgives, and he only loves and loves unconditionally, accepted us as we are anytime for that matter. And that is how that unconditional love we need to develop towards Swami. That is the reason why Swami says you have to develop that unconditional love. That's what is bhakti again. The bhakti comes only when you don't ask for anything. Don't ask for anything, just Swami and Swami alone. And it so happened actually, one of those Kodaikanal days, Swami asked, we went for a walking, and after we came back, and Swami also came in the car. He saw us on the middle, and then he came back. After he came back, Swami said, you all go back to that corner in the road, and there's one boy who is selling hats. He was selling hats, and you go and buy those hats, Swami said, because he is not getting real business of late. Poor fellow, why don't you go and buy, all of you? Then all of us went there, and then again bought hats. Venkat can post that photograph if you can. That hats photograph, we really enjoyed it, and that's it. Yeah, this is before. That's the first. Yeah, this is one. These hats actually, when we bought, and we went to the boy and asked him, "You're very lucky, brother, because one of the persons, I think somebody who knows very well Tamil, and he told him, you're very lucky because Swami asked us to come and then buy hats from you." You know what that man did? He removed a wallet from his pocket and took out and showed us Swami's photograph. And he told, today morning only I was praying him, Swami, see that I have a good business. Imagine that man prayed that, and Swami responded to his prayers and showered all love for that. That is how Swami is. His love for devotees. He hears everybody's prayer for that matter. And when he hears prayers, he spontaneously responds. Spontaneously he responds to the prayers of all devotees for that matter. In fact, afterwards we went, of course, after the Kodaikanal trip, and we really thoroughly enjoyed. One of the days, Swami has created a Visvalingam. And when he created a Visvalingam, and he showed us before creating Visvalingam, Swami asked some of the boys to chant Rudram. When they chanted Rudram in the evening of this time only, in fact, and when some of them while chanting, Swami immediately created a Visvalingam, where the whole universe, before it is divided into Panchabhutas like earth, sky, and water, how it used to be. And Swami showed us how where it is broken, and then that's a Big Bang theory again. You can always recollect that. And where it is broken, he showed, and then gave that Visvalingam to Sri Lal Shagaru that time, and then asked him to do puja regularly for Vishwasanti, for the peace of the universe. Swami, he always thinks of the Loka Kalyanam, Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. In fact, he went to the extent of saying not Loka Samasta, not the people in the Lokas, but all the Lokas should be. That's why he changed it to Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. In one of those Bhajan Hall sessions, he was, and that's how we have been chanting Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Swami's broad mind is that he is absolutely selfless, and nobody can come on the way between him and devotees. And later from there again, Swami took us to Ooty, and when we went to Ooty, and of course that time also we went a little late in the night. The same problem again, I should say. The windshield was broken, and again we got it repaired, and we reached Ooty. We reached Ooty in the midnight again, around 11:30, and Swami was awake, and we had our dinner. Next day morning, Swami went for darshan, and Swami collected some letters, and Swami asked us, how many of you are coming to Ooty first time? And most of us, almost 90% of us, lifted our hands. When we lifted our hands, and then Swami said, go and see Ooty and come. And actually that day we are leaving for Vrindavan again. And Swami specifically called me and said, come off before 10th, Tondaraga vacheseyandi, Raakala undi, we should leave, he said. Then we all took namaskar. Again he called me and said, Tondaraga vacheseyandi, come fast, because we have to leave early. And imagine, and that time Swami, in fact, he gave his car also. We went in 2-3 cars, and Swami gave his car also to, for us to go for a ride in Ooty. And while coming, actually, we went to a fuel station and to fill the fuel. And there was a big queue. And there was a big queue for, that fuel station. And that's how we got delayed, actually. When we got delayed, when we came, Swami already sat for lunch. And Swami said, all that. Swami said, because, and Swami is slightly upset after the end of the trip. He felt very, especially I felt really bad, because Swami told me, Swami told everyone that's different, but he told me in spite of it, I couldn't feel what Swami has said it. And Swami washed his hands and then said, he said, you come later after finishing your lunch, I'm going, because Rahukala was coming. That was. And Swami went off in the car. We all really did not have a mood to eat. And I imagine that time, actually, later we just got into the bus, and then we were all, in a very morose mood, I should say. Not a jubilant mood, because that trip ended, dissatisfying Swami at that last moment. And while we were going, actually, none of us were in a mood to enjoy the, that journey, though we were all together in the bus as we were doing it. And suddenly one person by bike, he came and stopped the bus and said, Sathya Sai Baba is waiting there in the forest under the tree. And he asked me to convey to you. That's all. Immediately we started forcing the driver to, stand on the accelerator now. We should reach as fast as possible, because Swami is waiting for us. And then we reached, and Swami got into our bus. You can put that photograph also. And then Swami traveled with us in that bus, and then we really enjoyed that journey. This is and imagine the faces, all gleaming that time. And I was not seen there because I was sitting next to Swami. With that photograph, I missed it, even to post it for you. And I was sitting, and Swami came and sat next to me in the two-seater, and we had a wonderful time. And how Swami really responds to our feeling. He gives only the joy and joy alone. He doesn't want us to be, a bit of it, our journey should be unpleasant. And he really made it, and it was so happy. And during that whole trip, I should one lesson which I have really learned it is that when we were in Kodaikanal, our ex All India State President son was also there. And at that time, what used to happen is Mrs. Ratanlal and Mrs. Srinivasan used to be there in the kitchen arranging food and cooking food and all that. And Swami used to, after darshan in the morning, and from 9 o'clock or 9:30 till 12 o'clock, the Kodai sessions used to go on. Swami used to talk, and suddenly they used to come out as an indication. And Swami used to look at them, in the vanta, did you finish your cooking? Then that's how Swami used to get up and then said, okay, get ready. And imagine that was that sort of indication. One such conversation, Swami was talking to Sri Srinivasan's son. His son was there. While he was talking, that boy said in that conversation, Swami, Meeru Madras ma intiki vacharu. In Tamil he said, Swami, when you came to Madras, you came to my house. Then imagine Swami immediately, he called the name of Mrs. Srinivasan Vidya. Then she came out of the kitchen running. Swami said, she immediately pleaded to Swami, I just understood what she said. Swami is a small kid, he doesn't know what to talk. Swami, it is your house, you came to Chennai. It's like that. Swami, very small thing it is, but how perfectly understood by her, it is not even coming. Swami just called her name, that's all. I remember that, Swami usually when one of the devotees, when they say, Swami, please come to my place, then Swami will say, oh, you have a place also. No, Swami, it's our place, Swami, you come to our place, our house. Oh, it is 50-50, yeah, it is our house. Then no, Swami, it is your house, Swami. That's how, Swami changes from I to we to you only, you and you alone. This is how it is to be. Swami's great lessons, I tell you, so subtle it is. How Swami called her name, how she responded to this. This is the understanding of a devotee and the God divine. I can never forget some lessons which Swami had, and even in Ooty for that matter. And it's how it goes. And Swami's love for devotees is immeasurable, I would say, because what I had seen, even while traveling to Bhagawan drama to Bombay or anywhere, one such days I remember, I tell you one instant which I was there present, what Swami really wanted, how he thinks of devotees. Even for darshan, the crowd was there, he used to go till the end of the Purnachandra auditorium. He used to see every one of the devotees that had come to Patti. Even in Kulwan, when the Kulwan hall also, he used to go to the east gate and then see the devotees there and go from this side and that side. I used to see and then come down and then say, yes, today I have seen all the devotees. And this is that satisfaction that Swami used to have. But only when he sees them, he is so happy. And once what happened is we were we were supposed to go to Mysore for a literature survey during our research time. And that time Swami called us for interview. Myself and Giridhar and Prasad Rao and Sridhar, four of us history and research scholars. We were caught inside, and then some of the other boys also there. Swami, actually that time what Swami said, I'm going to Nagarhole, that is a bird sanctuary near Mysore, and I wanted to take you. Said, we are so happy, Swami, yes, Swami, we said. Then, but Swami said, no, your professor wants you to go to Mysore. Swami will go after we come back from Nagarhole, Swami, and we said, no. Swami is very particular about it. No, you go to Mysore only. And you be there, and then I'll come and pick you up from there, he said. That was, then afterwards, Swami gave us some t-shirts, Swami gave us some money. Whenever we go out, he's like a mother, he looks after all our needs. Every minutest needs he takes into consideration, everything. He takes care of us so well. And afterwards, actually, we stayed there for Mysore in 22 days in that one of those Mysore University hostels where I could find a sea change of our hostel and outside hostel, university hostel. What a change, I tell you, my God. We cannot imagine how how disciplined we were and how protective we were in Parthi, and how these people were behaving outside. It was a sea change. That's what Swami wanted us to see and learn. Afterwards, we came back to Trai Vrindavan, and in Trai, we were only four of us, and some of the guests used to be remaining. All students and staff used to go for the institute, and all of us, four of us, used to go around inside the Trai with Swami only, and we were, till Swami goes up, we used to be there. And it so happened one of those days, Swami called all the VIPs to try, and it was the VIP lawn inside, right side, and the sofa sets will be there. And they're all sitting there. And Swami called us also. We were sitting in Swami's feet and then doing some Padaseva. All those industrialists and the VIPs, all the VIPs, they were requesting Swami to come to Bombay. Swami, please come to Bombay, and there's the devotees there. They were requesting Swami, and Swami went on saying it, something or the other to the devotees, in the sense, somebody said Swami will come by, will have a chartered flight. Swami said, no, I don't want to waste devotees' money like that. What will devotees think? And I am wasting Swami's devotees' money. I don't want to do that. Swami is very particular. He doesn't want to waste money. When somebody has proposed, Swami, the governor would has said he will give his flight, and Swami said, no, the opposition parties again will raise a question. I don't want to use any of the government property. Then somebody said, Swami, my company flight is there. Then he said, people will think I have a share in you. I don't want to give it. He doesn't want to give a room for anybody to think bad about him. That is how his behavior is always. Even thinking should not come. Even for that room also, he doesn't want to give Swami. That is how he is to behave. Swami is to behave. And at the end, somebody said, Swami, we can even go by road because the road is very good now. Then you know what Swami said? Road is very good. That is true. But the problem is, now if we decide that I am coming by road, devotees will start standing on both the sides of the road with the kids and the aged people, irrespective of time, when I am going to reach. Hours together they'll stand in the hot sun, which I don't want it to happen. My devotees should not suffer. This is the love that Swami had for devotees. And this is one incident which I have, my God, how Swami thinks about the devotees and their comfort zones. And one more thing is, actually, when I read it, one of those senior students, when he was traveling in the car, and he was sitting next to Swami, and Radhakrishna was driving, and Puttaparthi was sitting in the front, and then Swami was, while driving, actually Radhakrishna slowed down the car near the bus stand in Patti, because he saw some of the devotees getting down from the bus. When he saw devotees getting down from the bus, and Radhakrishna was a student and a driver, and is a great, so sensible. He knows, the pulse of the devotees, and they wanted to have Swami's darshan. So he slowed down. Swami looked at him, and he looked like this, and then Swami understood. Oh, then immediately what he did, and he started waving hands for the devotees who were running for his darshan and coming forward. And he pushed the student who was sitting next to Swami like this little, so that he can have a darshan. He can give darshan to the devotees. And it, just went like that till the Vijayagiri gate, and then afterwards he went to Gokulam and came back to Varanda. And Swami told the student, tomorrow onwards you don't come with me. And this man was already feeling guilty because he was blocking the way of the devotees having darshan of Swami. And he said, Swami, tappai pain the Swami. He said, what is the mistake you did? Swami, I came between you and some devotees. You know what Swami said? Nobody, no creature on the earth can come between me and devotees. No creature can come between me and devotees. But you did a mistake, Swami said. What is that? Swami, he didn't understand. And he said, when the whole world from outside is looking at me, you're sitting next to me and looking at the world. How does it matter where you sit, as long as your focus is not on Swami? Wherever you are, wherever we sit, whatever we do, when our focus is on Swami, Swami's focus also will be on us. And this is what actually Swami is always, whatever we do, we should do just keeping Swami in our mind. That is what the Swami expects. And this is what actually always, and I only pray Swami, Swami, please make us constantly remember you throughout, either way, either of these through satsangs or by chanting your name. And we are ever grateful to Swami because he has given us his name for us to chant. What more we want? That is the solace we get. In spite of so many, you touch any of the devotees, I tell you, you can write hundreds of Bhagavatas. He take everybody's experience. There's not one person. Everybody, you touch anybody. Previously, when we used to sit in the stands as devotees, the moment Swami gets up and when finish call, enters the interview room door, all the devotees, they used to immediately, by look of it, if somebody will have some experience, by one word, the whole person will get transformed into something else. That's how Swami is. And we are really grateful to Swami. I thank you for the organizers who have given me this chance to, remember Swami for the whole 1.5 hours. I didn't know. I think yeah, perfect.
Perfect.
Complete
Perfect.
my time, and then I don't know where I'm going to go. And thank you very much for the organizers for making me contemplate on Swami and chance to remember Swami and share my, my
Thoughts.
feelings of Swami. And once again, I'm pray Swami that he showers all his love and grace and strengthen our faith more and more so that we love him unconditionally and keep his form in our eyes and, throat and his name on our tongue throat. That's all we want. And thank you, Sai Ram, brothers.
Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, Hare Ranji.
Kantha Rao, and the way you just flowed like a river, and you gave a very important point to all of us, that travel not only I to we, but it is beyond to you. You gave that. And another important thing, even a look, a word from Swami has transformed millions and millions of people. And I want to share with all brothers and sisters of Singapore, we are so lucky that we are able to get all brothers from Swami's institution. And I personally feel that Swami has selected these rishis. They are all not ordinary human beings. All of them are rishis. We are not listening to any Sathya Sai College former students at all. We are listening, sitting, listening to rishis. And in Krishna avatars, all these are gopikas. Actually, you can see each brother, the way he explains about his proximity to Swami, that shows that every gopika had Krishna with her. So like that, each one of the brothers could express that experience, and that experience really stands in our heart to get closer and closer and closer to Swami. And in this, the real thanks or gratitude has to go straight only to Swami, Swami alone, because he selects. We don't know who is going to talk this Sunday. But suddenly, Kantha says, "Oh, Aryan, I have been talking." I said, no. This is Satsangh. I told him, we sing one bhajan in front of God for 5 years, same bhajan. So every day he sings that bhajan. It is new. So any Bhagavata reciting the name of the Lord or experience of the Lord or Nava Komala Megha Shyama, it is ever new. And that is what I do not tell his name full because I need 3 cups of coffee before I finish his name. First thing, I don't have the breath control to tell the name. But one thing I found, we are having all rishis and gopikas with us. We are so blessed and fortunate to get all of them. And Sai Kantha Rao, it's all our gratitude and heartfelt, loving gratitude to you, because you just poured. You never thought. You started that Swami brought out that subject through you, what is very, very important for all the devotees. And may Swami bless you and your family, lots of love and all the grace being showered to all of you. May all of you be in Swami's field and enjoy the bliss throughout your life. And may the life be Iha Para Sukhadayaka. May you be successful in the world as well as in the Paramartha world. Vyavaharika and Paramarthika both. You are successful, you will be always happy. Jai Sai Ram. Thank you.
Sai Ram, thank you.
Sai Ram, as always, wonderful with these Sundays ending off, at least for us in Singapore, with this amazing satsang. I think the biggest takeaway was the stronger the silence, that's when we hear him. I think that has been a very profound, in the depth of silence, you hear his footsteps, something that all of us should focus on trying to get that silence inwards, to understand him, to hear him, to feel him. We will finish off with Samastha Lokas. For any one of you who wish to like to speak to Brother Kantha Rao after that, I'll keep the lines open. So let's finish off the satsang first with 21 Samastha Lokas, and then I'll keep the lines open. I know that there are a few who would like to talk to him. So let's finish the satsang part with 21 Samastha Lokas. I'm muting everybody and then I'll continue this. Samastha lokaah sukhino bhavantu. 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 Samasta 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 lokaah Sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Jai Bolo Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba Ji ki Jai. Sai Ram, the satsang continues every Sunday. We will know who it is next week when you get the intimation of who the speaker is. As always, as anticipatory as you are as to who is the next Rishi who is going to be addressing us, I will wait for that message from the Lord to hear who it is next week. Until then, Sai Ram, have a wonderful evening. I'm keeping the lines open. I'm stopping the recording because I'm trying to use this towards sharing on the platform. The lines are still open for those of you who would like to have exchanges with Brother Kantha Rao. Thank you so much, brother. Sai Ram.
Hey, Kantha Rao and everybody, I just want